And the Maisa, I see that the smiles on your face when we discuss in Yonim of Kashrus, they say it, all those smiles. And therefore, I don't feel guilty if I decide to mention, I have all my mics on, right? Yeah. I don't feel guilty if I decide to mention maybe in Yonim of Iroi, in Yonim of Kli Sheni, Kli Rishon, etc. Some more in Yonim in this parsha. And this brings us to the big shaila in the sugya in Hilchos Bishul, which, like you realize, is a shaila also in Hilchos Kashrus. And I must tell them, please continue going ahead in Yud Aleph Yud Beis and these Yonim, because Klape the Shir, there's not as much sheer topic. I'm going to obviously cover whatever's negated to talk about in sheer and Yud Aleph and Beis, and therefore the other one should be there. But that aspect is more of the literature and seeing the Mishnah Berurahs, which are lengthy. Sif Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, they're lengthy Mishnah Berurahs, Gimel, and then Bez Hashem we'll meet together. But I feel that because of that, I have a little bit of a time on my hand that I could discuss a few of these in Yonim of Iroi and to go get globally, which I think there's a big tayalas. Of course, these are in Yonim of Hilchos Shabbos too. The Inyanim of Iroi, Kli Rishon, Kli Sheni, etc. These Inyanim, this is where you learn it. You learn it in Hilchos Shabbos, and then you learn it again in Yudaya, in Sim Kufay, in Sim Tzadi Beis, in Sim Tzadi Hey. So the other day we started with a different shayla. Yesterday we went into all the fish in Inyanim, all the shaylas of the fish. One last time, everybody hears me and sees me. Rav Nevenzel, you see me, you hear me? All right. Everyone sees me? It's interesting. Rav Nevenzel is not reacting. Okay, Akapanim. The Maisa. Yesterday or 2 days ago, we discussed a new shaila, which is what I want to talk about now, Bez Hashem, is the shaila of our sinks. What's the status of our faucets in halacha? The spout, the tap. What's the status of our sinks in halacha? The faucet in halacha, excuse me. What's the status of the faucet in halacha? Is the faucet considered a Kli Rishon? Or an Iroi Kli Rishon, obviously, an Iroi from a Kli Rishon? Or is the faucet considered maybe a Kli 95? Because by the time it gets from the boiler system, whichever boiler you have, I'm not getting involved now to check. Let's assume that the boiler is a Kli Rishon ala Eish. Why, what, where? But that's an Andr Shmuz, assuming that your boiler is ala Eish. It has the Maisa. Most of them have either it's a Shemesh system, which at least in Halacha D'Rabbanan is considered an Eish. No, without that, let's assume we're dealing with a real boiler anyways, a deraisa boiler, certain in Chutzlar, it's all boiler systems. And in such a case, that's a boiler ala Eish. Out of that boiler of your Eish comes, I was able to look on my roof today. See that, it's interesting. From the boiler to the basic framework of my house, it had gone through already 3 kalim. From already 3 kalim, because it makes like a left turn. You have all these types of different pipes. Who knows what happens once it gets into the house? We can only imagine. And then we want to know, is this considered okay, so maybe some of these are one long pipe, but once they have these connecting type pipes, they're called, the pipes that connect the 2 parts together. What do you mean you don't know? What's the name of those pipes that connect? Elbow is this. What's he talking about? Elbow pipe, okay. So this elbow pipe, by the time it gets to your faucet is already the last on the spout is really already a Kli 26. No, okay. So what's the din? Is that considered a Kli Sheni, a Kli Shlishi, etc., or is it considered a Kli Rishon? Is it considered an Iroi Kli Rishon?
Someone who drinks through a straw is drinking out of a Kli, however many twirls there are?
Straw?
Because it twirls? Why does it make a difference in the water?
Because it's different kalim. There's a metal pipe, and that metal pipe, and there's a second metal pipe, and a third metal pipe.
They're all 100% connected.
They're connected through metal pipes, right? Separate metal pipes. Even the Shitaska, so call it a Kli Sheni. You admit there's at least 2, right? There's the boiler, and then there's the pipe that you're considering to be one pipe, which I'm not sure why.
That's all one body of water. By mikvah, there's like one little pipe that connects the mikvah to the body of water.
It could be you're saying what the tradition says, but you understand that it's different kalim. It's certainly different kalim. For example, when you would touch your hand and touch the boiler, so then Khalil is going to get a burn. Mashenkein, when you touch the pipe that's coming out of it, if there's no water running through it, you're not going to get a burn. It's pashut. Okay, Akapanim, this is the shaila that the Achrayim deal with. I'm assuming that this is the needed. And then once you get to the faucet, that's already at least a Kli Shlishi. So call it at least a Kli Shlishi. So now, what's the din of all these pipes? So the other day we spoke out what's Mefurish that discusses the shaila. They say it's choppy. Is it still choppy? Or now it's fine. Now it's fine. Okay. They say the Shulchan Aruch and Sivan Tzadi Beis and Sif Zayin. The Shulchan Aruch seems to say, mamish this case. he bases it on a Trumas Adash in Sivan Tzadi Beis Siv Zayin. This is what we ended the shir 2 shirim ago, and then we got a little sidetracked with the fish. But in Shulchan Aruch Ramah, Sivan Tzadi Beis Siv Zayin, Ramah brings down a Trumas Adashin, where the Trumas Adashin brings a raya straight from a Gemara. The Trumas Adashin says that when you have a pot that has milk, let's say that was the case, that the milk bubbled over the pot, went out of the pot, went down the side of the pot, continuously flowed until it hit a fleshika, empty pot. Not important right now if there's something in the pot, or if there's something in the pot, and it went and it hit as a continuous flow, a irui, shaloi nifsa kakiluach, a flow that continued from the pot. So the Rambam brings down in Siman Tzadi Beis Siv Zayin that the food inside the pot is kosher. Because the food, we know that the irui is only mevashal kedei klipa. The kalipa, that's the actual pot. So it hits the pot. But the pot is treif. But the pot now has the blias of milchiks and fleishiks in there. Why does it have milchiks and fleish? Very simple. The liquid of the milk continues. It's continuously backed by the drops all the way back to the pot. That pot has the din of a kli rishon ala eish, because the walls of that pot were on the fire, and those walls are constantly giving chizuk to the milk, which is flowing out of the pot, until it reaches to the fleishika pot and caused all the havoc and all the problems that we have. That's what we explained. That's Mefurish in the Ramah. The Ramah says, how do I know this? The Trumas Adash, how do I know this? So we said there's a Gemara. The Gemara in Shabbos says that Rabbi was inside some type of a side bath, which was off of the Chamir Tveria or wherever, some type of a hot springs over there. And the Gemara says that Rabbi said, if you want to put the oil, you must take out a klisheni, tol beklisheni, take it out, the water, make it a klisheni, and then put the oil in. But don't put the oil straight in my bath. That was what the Gemara says over there. In fact, the Trumas Adeshin, what do you think he was? He was sitting mamish inside the hot water spring. Mamish, the fire was under him. Says the Trumas Adeshin, it must be that he was inside some separate inlet of water, some separate body of water, a little bath of such, which was connected through some type of a stream, maybe some type of a tube, some type of a pipe, which was connected as a continuous flow from the original kli rishon, which we'll say is kli on the fire, and the water continues through the pipe until it hits his bath, and we call that a kli rishon. We call it. Now, the Maisa, you have to have a lot of emunah, Rabbi say. You have to have a lot of emunah. In general life, you have to have a lot of emunah, Rabbi say. If you're not going to have a lot of emunah, Rabbi say, then what are you worth? You have to have a lot of emunah. That's it. In this case over here, the Trumas Adashin is saying that K'may, that over here, when the water flows out of the Kli Rishon, it goes and it's continuous. The stream continues all the way to the bath, and that's called the Kli Rishon. So it says, Huadin, like our case, when the milk bubbles over the pot, goes over, continuously flows from the pot, and it's connected all the way back, even though it's going on a stream on the actual floor of the kira and continues onto the floor of the kira. We don't say that the floor of the kira cools it down. And we say it's still getting backed by the walls of the original Kli Rishon. The original Kli Rishon are backing it, and it doesn't have the din of a klisheni that the walls cooled it down. Now, you have to have a lot of emunah, because you guys are learning now. See, if you aleph, you base, over there you see already that when there's a lot of hot water together, there's an ambati. So then I understand it's very, very hot, and the water's hot. And Taka Rebbe was sitting in a very hot bath. Rabbeinu HaKadosh was sitting in a very hot bath. Mashen came today. I decided to try this because it didn't sound right to me, but I have emunah, and this didn't shake my emunah, even a mashu, even a little drop. But the Maisa, so I took water, I boiled it, I let it bubble over, and I made sure that the stream of water continuously flowed from the water. I made it bubble over. It bubbled over and continuously flowed onto the countertop until it hit another pot. And when I felt the stream of water, the water was not hot. The water wasn't hot because, sorry? I can't say, it was warm, right? By the way, it was only warm for about a second, and then a second later it was mamish cold. I can't believe that it was considered. Now, again, I had the pot over here, and I had the other pot over here, and I mamish made it bubble and boil with the fire and everything so that it should flow down. I didn't check the water right here because I didn't want to burn my finger. But over there, I checked it by the time it hit the pot, which was, I would say, this is a good example of Erev, the distance of the table in front of Nevinsal. I would say that's about a good distance. And it was not hot. And you all understand why it was not hot, because it flowed on a marble countertop. And once it flows on the countertop, what's going to happen is that the countertop is going to cool it down. And that's mamish the case that he's talking about, that the Trumas Adeshin is talking about. But you know what? I have emunah, and it didn't touch my emunah. What's the pshat? I guess. I don't know. No, but what do you mean? I don't know the answer to your question. I don't know. I'm just saying, obviously it exists. Maybe it doesn't exist in all cases. I don't know. I'm just saying, my point is like this. Rabbi Sher is asking, well, in this case, if you know for sure it's not Yatzalet's Bay, it doesn't answer, right? Okay, so I told you, I don't know what warm is, and we don't know what Yatzalet's Bay is, and maybe 110 is not Yatzalet's Bay. I don't know, and maybe my finger was touching the actual top, and that was what was feeling. I don't know, but I do know that it's a very big jump. That's all I'm trying to prove. It's a very big jump from what the Trumas Adeshin is coming from to what he's proving. You know, when you have one little flow of a stream, which is what the case in Shulchan Aruch and Ramah and Sivan Tzadi Beis and Siv Zayin is talking about, to his raya from the case of the Trumas. But I have emunah, right? Galmer, it didn't shake me even the slightest. The same. I have emunah. If the Trumas Adeshin tells me that I got burnt, I got burnt. That's it. I told my wife, quick, we have to call Hatzalah. Because if the Trumas Adeshin tells me that it's Yatzalet, it's Bayit, that's coming from a Klivichin, and the walls did not cool it down, Simcha, I believe this. If you don't believe this, then leave right now. Don't go that way. Go out. Right? I believe this. So Akapanim, but let's go weiter. I'm going now with what it says in the Ramah. It's a little bit difficult for me in the Metzias. Shalom Yankel. I have Emunah. I believe this. What do you want from me? It's the place that there is going to be times where it does. What should I tell you? Is it going to be as hot as dust? I don't know. Maybe it's a riot to what the shear of Yatzalet was. I don't know. I wasn't going to tell you this time, but what should I tell you? I have to say the emes, and it bothers me. Right? I don't know. Rabbi Engelstein, what do you say? All right, it's a good thing you all have masks. All right. Was? Come again? Nice try. I don't know. No, you should leave. I see your moon is getting shaken. No, you should leave. Now, but it's like, I don't know. But that's not important. That's what it says. If you're chaylik on that, you have to. Now, it's Rabbi saying, but now comes the stira. Now, I'm telling you again, like I said yesterday, is everybody masking that what we spoke about yesterday was not difficult to understand? Is anybody masking that what we spoke about difficult? Right? Yet we were able to answer up some of the most fair shilos that when a person would get them, he would mamish shake and cringe and then say Asher Yotzer and everything. It would be very scary shilos and everything. Right? So I'm telling you, today is the same thing. If anybody's scared, he doesn't have to stay for the shear. He could just say Tilim on the side that the Maifai should be Matzliach. Right? But I don't think you have to leave. I don't think it's going to be scary. If you listen closely and don't be scared, because you hear sometimes yoyra and scary words, and you hear tzadiyeh and basar and chalav and all types of scary things, you just get, your brain gets knocked out. When you're not in that thing, I'm telling you today, it's going to be made very, very easy. Very easy, right? I don't think a guy could understand what we're saying, but that's because he doesn't watch Nagelwasser. But anybody that watched Nagelwasser this morning, I don't really see any reason why I shouldn't be able to understand what we're saying. I'll do my best to try and make it understandable. I'm only giving that akdama not to psych you out, to show you that it really is difficult. I'm just telling you, I know myself that when I started learning these in Yonim, it always was one of these things, no, I can't understand that until I learned. It's not true. It's just the Yetzer Hara. So watch, let's go clear. Comes again, now we start at stira. That's l'chayra, the answer to our boiler systems. And the truth is, so what do you want, Rabbi Bolzim? You're right. I don't know what you want from me. What are you yelling at me for? You're correct. What does he want from me? That's Taki. He's right. Rabbi Bolzim is correct. And that's the halacha, that our boiler system l'chayra is one connected pipe. The chiddush being that for shteitzach, when it's loynifsak kiluach and it's pouring out of the pot, so nothing cooled her down. The air doesn't cool it down. No, that we knew. The chiddush of the Trumas Hadeshin is that even when you're going on to some other surface, and that surface wasn't per se on the fire, we don't say that it cools it down. And an imam in Bemunish Shlema, I might write it in my siddur. An imam in Bemunish Shlema, that when something's going to spill out and it's like nifsak akiluach, even if it's not in the avir, so then even if it's not in the avir, it's on a floor, it's going to still be an e-ray from a klirichin, and it's going to answer that pot. Okay, 14th imam. The problem is that in the Animamins, when the Rabbi asks kashas on the Rambam in Animamins, and he says, "Wow, I don't believe in that." So the Rabbi just said that the Rambam's not bikaris, and the Rambam just said the Rabbi's not bikaris, right? So what if I show you that one of our Animamins over here, it doesn't work? Then we have major problems. Then we have major problems in the Emunah. Then we have major problems. So there's what do you want? There's a shach. The shach. So you say, I know what you're about to say. You're about to say, okay, it's a shach. Whatever you're about to show me a stira, it's a shach. And that's very nice. And maybe the Ramah will be chaylik, and it'll be like the 30,000 other machlekes and kashrus and Yeridei and everything in the world, right? So then why are you showing me a shach? So now I'm going to tell you a biggest sight in life. There's a sefer called the Tov Ches. What's a Tov Ches? What's sefer Tov Ches? It doesn't mean 408. Tov Ches is the sefer Torah's Chatas. Who wrote the sefer Torah's Chatas? Who knows? The Heilige Ramah. The Heilige Ramah. The Halakha Ramah. The Ramah wrote the Torah's Chattis. So now, if I bring you a shach and he brings the Torah's Chattis, who's he bringing? The Ramah. Very good. Okay. Now the Ramah is the same Ramah that wrote in Siman Tzadi Beis Siv Zayin from the Trumas Hadeshim, what you just heard. Ani Mamin B'Munah Shlema. Kum Tzegei in the shach, in Yoredeya, in Siman Tzadi Hey, in Sif Yud Ches. Because of the Torah's Chattis, b'shem this of a heter. This is the Halakha Ramah, Rabbi say. The Ramah says, Afilu, now it's talking over here, which is we're going to talk about in a moment, a very serious case over here. It's talking over here about when a person had a boiling hot pot. In those days, we're going to talk about these shilas about washing dishes and things that got tray from washing dishes, milchiks and fleisha kalim together. That's what we wanted to get to. Remember I told you what was the shilah that we got there of Yontif? Motzei Yontif? The shilah was that somebody had washed together milchik kalim, fleisha kalim. There was cheese there. There was meat there. Don't ask. There was everything there. Cheese and meat, everything except for parav. And he's pouring on the boiling hot water coming from the Kli Rishon. And now the Rabbi Bolzim told us it's called the Kli Rishon. And this is where all the problems start like Yehudim. Okay? So now it came down boiling, geesing down onto the hot water. And we said, you know what? You're going to tell me it's not Yatzaledis by. First of all, they're wearing gloves. Second of all, we don't Yatzaledis by could be even 120 degrees. So it's Yatzaledis boiling water coming down. And that's what we want to know the din is. Devaila, Rabbi Bolzim will tell us, what do you want? Of course it's also boiling hot water coming down Yatzaledis by game over. Right? That's I understand what he's trying to tell us, Rabbi Bolzim. Yatzaledis by boiling hot water coming down, game over. Nothing to discuss. Okay. Is Rabbi Sai, watch this. Watch this. Kumtzegain, the Ramai talks about mamish this case. The shach in Yerdea, b'toyres chatis, afilum are mikli shalisser al kalim shel heter. What happens? You have boiling hot water coming from a kli shel isser. Boiling hot water coming from a kli shel isser. In those days, everybody said they washed dishes. They didn't fancy people with sinks, right? What do you have over there in South Africa? They have a sink. Who has a sink? Well, who has a sink? You take the pot, you cook it up with the coals, you take the boiling hot water, and now you pour it onto the kalim. Right? That's how we do it. That's how we always did it in the Hain. But sometimes they messed up and they took from what? They took from the pot of trephis. You know, I don't know why they used the neighbor's pot or who knows. And they used the neighbor's pot, the boiling hot water. They took that boiling hot water, which is trefa pot, and that's now trefa water. Treif water, it's a chazer water, okay? It's a chazer soup. And they take that water and they're pouring it on kosher kalim, okay? Or it says the Ramah over here, that's one example of the case. Or it says the Halakha Ramah over here, they took the boiling hot water from the milchik pot and they poured it straight onto a fleishik pot, right? In the meantime, I think, let me ask Danny if Danny's here. Danny, I have my hard wire. Should I put in the hard wire now? We didn't have it at the beginning of this year. Or should I just leave the MiFi? All is good. I just leave it? Just leave it. And it's like somebody's davening. Rabbi Nevinsel's davening for us. Just leave it. Okay, in the meantime, it's good. So somebody should let Rabbi Greenhouse know you're with us. Or? Let me know. Let us know if there's a problem. I'll change the hardware. Is Rabbi Isai comes again? Thank you, Shmuley. Is comes again the Torah's Chattis? Comes again the Ramah. He says, if you take boiling hot water from a trefa kli, or boiling hot water from a milchik kli, and you pour it onto a fleisha kli, or boiling hot water from a trefa kli and pour it onto any kalim for that matter. Good? Slofa? So Rabbi Isai, what should be the din based on what you just said? So you all know. It's very simple. Right? You're taking the pot, you're pouring it onto the kalim, right? You have their forks and knives and spoons and all types of other, cutlery, and now you pour it on. So I said, tell me the din. The water went straight from, let's make it the case of the milchik pot, boiling hot water. That's a case that could actually be negayas. Milchik pot, boiling hot water, and he poured it onto a fleishik kli. So let's see what you learned today. What should be the din? Doesn't sound very good, right? Doesn't sound very good. Okay, not the trefa pot. Okay, make it the trefa pot. The trefa pot is pouring down straight onto kosher kalim. That means there's a chazer soup inside there. And now it goes, so it touches the fork, and it touches the knife. It touches, and listen to every word I'm saying. I know what I'm saying here. It touches the fork, it touches the knife, it touches this one. It bumps from here to there to there. So what's you going to tell me? Everybody here's treif? Everybody here's treif? So what are you going to tell me? Yeah, because it's what, as long as it's loy nifsaka kiluach, right? You all just learned that when you have boiling hot water and it flows through the air and then it hits the first surface, I don't care if it hits a surface. When you have boiling hot water and it comes out, even when it hits a surface, as long as it's still connected to the walls of the klibishin on the fire. If you're chaylik on that, you're chaylik on the Ramah. And then it hits the knife, and then it hits the fork, and it's still, so wait, it touched the knife. It got cooled down when it touched the knife. No? What are you going to say? No, Rabbi Bolzin, did it get cooled down when it touches the knife? No. It's not going to cool down. Why? Because it went from knife to fork. Who cares? As long as it's loy nifsak kiluach, it's one continuous flow. So then when I'm going to read you now in the Teres Chatas, it's going to say like this. It's going to say, when you take boiling hot water from a tray for pot, and you pour it and it goes straight onto the knife, then it hits the knife, and then it hits the fork, and then it hits the next knife, and the next knife. They're all treif, right? Because that's all irui from a kli rishon, right? Is there anybody that can argue that that's what it's going to say right now in the Teres Chatas, in the Heilig Ramah? Says the Ramah. There's one person that argues the Ramah. Says the Ramah, he says, because of his afilu ma'ara mikli shalisser ante kelim of heter ein le'eser. What should you answer? Only rak hakli sheba kiluach. You only answer the first one. You only answer the first one, the one that the water hit first, and then it knocks on that one, and it continues on to the next kli. The next kli is kosher. What happened over here? What happened over here? Comes again all the Achrayim, Prima Godim, Chavis Das, Achrayim that you haven't heard of, Achrayim that I haven't heard of. And they all say, what? What happened to the Eilik Ramah? Frank the Prima Godim. What happened over here? He's talking about a case, and if you look inside the Sivan, it's in the first, that is the case. The case is that the water went straight from a Kli Rishon, hit the first Kli, it's continued, it didn't plop off, nothing. Continued on from this kli to this kli. It's a continuous flow all the way there. Rabbi side, frek the Prima Godim, it's a stira. The Prima Godim is so bothered by this kasha. He says, I don't know the answer to this kasha, and it must be avanesenu garmala. My averis have goyred me not to understand the answer to this kasha. Rabbi side, Prima Godim had averis. They say the Prima Godim was the unav mikol adam. He got a steller. They took him to a different shtetl. They got a steller, maybe Frankfurt. They got a steller to Gahat. And the Maisa, when he came there, he realized they wanted him because he was a big guy, but he realized he was going to get a lot of COVID, so he couldn't do it. And the Mamas, they started asking him shilas, and he couldn't do it. He was so with the COVID, and he was so scared of the kaiva. He was so scared that people got him. Right? Yet he's the one person that you see in Gans Shulchan Aruch. Rabbi Kiveger's mevatel das to him, the gamre. Whatever the Prima Godim says, aye, sir. Rabbi Kiveger. He writes in one place, Rabbi Kiveger, one Achron, a Grace Achron writes, not like that, but like a Grace Achron. He says, no, he says, Avaman Asa, HaPrima Godim Kasav Leike. That's already enough. The Prima Godim says not like that. The Prima Godim was at Har Sinai. He says not like that. Kamarno. No. So now the Prima Godim says, I don't know the answer to this question. My Averis have been goyring me not to, I think it means our Averis. Our Averis have been goyring the Prima Godim not to understand the answer to this question. Tzarchiyin. And therefore he says, you have to be Machmir. Prima Godim. Plus, which case, the Vidas, it'll come out to let's go weiter. That means my sink, let's go back to our case. We have these milchik kalim, fleishik kalim, kafi, what we just said a moment ago. If I had boiling hot water coming out of the sink, the spout, the first thing that we said, the feed Ramah, the water is an iroi klibishin, and animam that kolzman that the iroi hasn't stopped, and it's coming straight from it. I don't care that it touches this kli and then this kli, as long as it's a continuous flow, so then it should answer all of the kalim. You have milchiks there, you have fleishiks there, it should be cooking the milchiks, the fleishiks, everything, and at least an iroi of a klipa, and it's cooking all these dishes, all these pots, all these everything, as long as it hasn't been nifsaka kiluach, as long as it hasn't stopped the stream, it should be aser. Okay? But now, with this newfound information, so when this person's going to call me up, I'm going to tell him, what was the matzav? He's going to say, you know how it was. I was washing the dishes, and I was holding a fork in my hand, right? I was holding one fork in my hand, and over there on the side, there was forks and knives and whatever. So it hit the knife, and then it hit the constant flow from the knife and went straight onto the forks and the other things, etc. He said, but it first hit the knife. According to what we just said a minute ago, I'm going to say everything is treif because it's all touching them at the same time. Now I'm going to say, wait a minute. I got you. You mean it first hit the knife? Okay, so now we have what to talk about. First it hit the knife. So once it hit the knife, it's game over because it already stopped there. It became a cliche and kol tuv tzarech in gadol. The Prima Godim tries an answer. He says, okay, maybe I'll say the answer is that when it comes to the case of the Ramon Sadi Beis, there the pot was on the fire. And maybe when it's on the fire, it has the walls of the fire, which are so strong and so hot that even when it bounces from kli to kli, it will retain the walls of the fire. And therefore it will be able to surpass and knock out the cooling down process of the kira. And Mashain Kane, what we're talking about over here is the person is holding this pot of kli rishon in the air. It's not on the fire. So it's not on the fire, so maybe that taka. But the Pri Megadim says, but it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that, and therefore it says the Pri Megadim, I don't know the answer to the kasha, Sarich Ian, and he says you have to be machmir. So that's the Pri Megadim. Now, you have a choice, if I say. My job is over. To tell you more than the Pri Megadim, I did mine. Right? I can go home today. My wife said, did you do what you're supposed to do in Kailo? I said, I did mine. Klapei Hilchos Shabbos, I did mine. But then, you'll never know what to do. You'll never know the story of the Bajana cat. That's right. So it's up to you. Do you all want to hear the story of the Bajana cat? You want to hear? And the guys over there of Nevinsol, do you want to hear the story of the Bajana cat? Not all. The Bajana cat? We're the Fiskus girls. This is the story you're going to tell them tonight when you put them to sleep. Right? The Bajana cat. Seder? Rabbi Silverman, you ready? Let's go. Okay. But I'm telling you now, this is not in my contract. This is not in my contract. This is 100% not in my contract. What? Oh, Agov, Rabbi Simcha is telling me a good thing. I forgot. If you would take back the Pri Megadim, even with the Pri Megadim's teretz, what should come out in our case? That our case is the fire, there's a boiler, very good, thank you very much, Rabbi Levin, that when you have the boiler system, it's on a fire. I don't know if it's on or it's not on, but you certainly have to chayshish that it's on. I have no idea. There's definitely a fire going on over there. So even if the Pri Megadim's teretz would be true, which, Bamis, I don't know why the Pri Megadim didn't like his teretz so much. The Rama over there says Rosachas, it says boiling. I could have heard his teretz, but the Pri Megadim, whatever way you cut the cake over here, the Pri Megadim will tell you that the way to be machmir is if it was on the fire. So Rabbi Levin says, so no matter what, by the case of the boiler, we're going to have to be machmir. Correct? Because by the case of the boiler, the water's on the fire. So no matter what, Rabbi Bolzim's still right, and the kalim that are inside the sink are going to be non-kosher. Because boiling hot water went and touched all of these kalim in a continuous flow, which was coming from a boiler, which is on the fire. But hold off on a shayla, because I don't want to lose the flow. I'm a little bit scared. I don't want to have a nifsak akiluach over here, part of the pun. Now, is a place so again, this is from the goodness of my heart. The goodness of my heart. Okay? Now, comes again, the cat in Bishul. What happened? There was a cat in a place called Bishul. Look, boss, this cat, Yuchastik cat, he was probably Zayd of many of the cats over here in Yerushalayim or Kodesh. This cat, one night, there was a pot of milk, like a pot of milk that they left. I don't know what was in there, milk, not milk, but some type of milk product. They left it on whatever grills, I don't know what type of grills they had over there. They left it on the type of the grill that they had over there in the fancy kitchens of Bashan. And the pot in the middle of the night was knocked over. In the morning, they saw cat prints. It's all brought down in the Das Torah. Marsham brings this. Where's the Das Torah? It's in some of the children's storybooks. I wrote it. It's in Chelik Ches. I didn't write down which tshuva. Very famous. And over there, the cat knocked over the pot. Okay? The cat knocked over the pot. The cat, in the morning, they found that they knew that the pot was still hot. When they had gone to sleep, the pot was certainly boiling hot. And they took it and they put it over there on the side, but they knew that it was certainly hot when they went to sleep. And the pot got knocked over. Even the way it's brought down over there is that the pot was even hot in the morning. Maybe it wasn't bubbling in the morning, obviously, right? But it was so hot that, it was like, it seemed to be it was on coals or something, and it seems to be that it was knocked on its side. So then the actual pot, certainly when it had gotten knocked, was certainly hot. That seems to be what the Marsham was taking on, because you see that there was still a little bit on its side, and the milk was still a little bit hot. Even that which was in there in the morning was a little bit hot still. That was on the coals that were, cooling down. They weren't. You didn't leave the barbecue on overnight. He put it on the coals, which were cooling down. But it seems to be that was the case. And the cat knocked over the milk, and the milk proceeded to go straight to these expensive Bajana China dishes. And that was the shaila that was posed to the Helik Marsham. So the Marsham said, listen, what do I tell you? Listen, if you're going to know, you're going to go and look in the Ramah. You know already what's going to happen here in the Marsham. If you're going to go and look in the Ramah is going to tell you in Siman Sided Beis Yud Zayin that if the milk spills over, the China dish is obviously reflations. And the milk spills over and it was a continuous flow. And he shows over there, let's assume some of the hanachas over here, some of these things are the sveikas that he's mitzaref in the end, but let's assume that he realized that the milk must have gone as a continuous flow from the way that it tipped, etc. And it went as a continuous flow straight to the fleishik pot. excuse me, the fleishik China. Now, China, obviously, you can't kasher. This China wouldn't be such a big deal if you could just kasher it and pour on it. If it was a metal plate, we would just pour on boiling hot water and cold too. If it's Iru is only mevashel l'ketei klipa. But now we have a big problem because now it's going to trafe up a China plate. The China plate you can't kasher. It's cheretz. There's no marking for kasher. So he said, so what should I tell you? If you look at the Ramah, Siman Tzadi Beis and the milk flows over and hits the China pot, that's mefurish ani ma'ameh b'emunah shleima, that it's going to be aser. Mashein came. He says, when you look in Siman Tzadi, it seems to be that once it touched one surface, in the Shachin Yeridei, Siman Tzadi Sif Yud Ches, and yes, I take the liberty of being able to call anybody in the middle of the night and asking what it says in Shachin Yeridei, Siman Tzadi Sif Yud Ches, that when they will flow over and it will hit one surface, by the time it gets to the second surface, it's already cooled down and it's already klisheni. And the Pri Megadim doesn't know the answer to this kasha. So he brings like this. Good, so we don't know what to do in these China plates. So he brings like this. He brings that maybe there's a Chavis Das. Maybe we'll go with the answer of the Chavis Das. The Chavis Das, the Helik and the Sivis. The Sivis says, I'm not afraid of this question. And again, he brings us back into our Hilchos Shabbos Tikkun Musagim. He says, what's the chilik be'emes tuvishin, a klirishin and a klisheni? What's the difference between a klirishin and a klisheni? You all know by now. Klirishin, the walls keep it hot, and the klisheni are cooling it down. That's it. He says, let me tell you a big insight. The only time that I need the walls to be, listen closely, Rabbi said, because this is one of the big insights over here, Bein in Hilchos Shabbos, Bein in Hilchos Kashrus. When the only time I need that the walls of the klirishin should be keeping it hot is when I want to do something aggressive, says the Chavis Das. What do I want to do that's aggressive? Says the Chavis Das. If I want that the liquid coming out should do an aggressive thing like to be mevashel, to cook, or I want it to do two pa'ulas. What's two pa'ulas? In Yeridea, there's sometimes something has to be mavliya, it has to get absorbed into something else, and sometimes it has to be maflit. It has to suck out a bliya. Mavliya means it has to put in a bliya. So when you want your liquid, you want your liquid to be doing two actions. Bishul is a very aggressive, that's considered like two actions. That's one example. Or you want it to be mavliya and to be maflit. He says, then I need a klirishin. Then I need a klirishin, mamish the walls, and if something cools it down, it's game over. Okay. He says, but if all I need to do is to be mavliya, all I need to do is to get something in there. It needs to do one action. It just has to get in somewhere else. So he says, no, that's not so aggressive. And therefore, if you would have the walls cooling it down, it will not cool it down to the extent that it will not be able to be mavliya into somewhere else. Okay? So he says, very good. As I'm the teretz is very simple to the question. The teretz is very good. When we're talking about in Siman Tzadi Beis over there, he says, there was usher. Because there, all I'm trying to do is get the milk to go over. The milk is already hot milk. She's hot. All she has to do is one thing, get into the fleishik pot. That's it. Get milk bliyas into the fleishik pot. Doesn't have to do two things. It's milk going straight into the fleishiks. So the wall of the kira is not going to cool it down. And it's going to be able to get in there. He says, Mashiach came when we're talking about Siman Tzadi. He says, what was Siman Tzadi talking about, Rabbi? Siman Tzadi was talking about that you have milchik kalim, fleishik kalim, they're all together over there, and you're pouring boiling hot water onto it. So I needed to take out the milk, or heat up the milk. That's how Rav Moshe explains it in one place. I needed to heat up the milk, and then put it into the fleishiks. I needed to do two things. Or in Hilchos Shabbos. In Hilchos Shabbos, this Isser is found in Hilchos Shabbos. He says if you have tavlinim, sounds familiar? You have spices, they're on the countertop, and you take a klirishin of water, and you cook it up, and it bubbles over, and it goes over an Erev, a klirishin, and it follows on the countertop, and then it goes all the way to the tavlinim. He says, no, that already, it might not be mevashel. No, that's not going to be mevashel because that's so aggressive. It won't be mevashel if it got cooled down by a countertop. But when all I need to do is be mavliya, so then the countertop is not going to be matzliach to cool it down to that extent. The only time I'm saying something gets cooled down is when I needed to do something aggressive. And then I need the full force of the klirishin. Is that crystal clear, the answer, Rabbi Isai? Is that crystal clear? Says the Marsham. He says, if this is the teretz, it's game over for the China, right? If this is the teretz, the China is game over, right? Because the milk from the cat spilled out, went straight. All it has to do is be mavliya into the china, the kol tuv. But the Hashem says this teretz is not emes. Rabbi said, listen one more time to the words of the Shach in your Deya, Sivkat in Yudches. Kasa b'teres chatis, tafilu ma'ara mikli shel iser. Even if I'm taking water that was cooked up, what was the case we spoke about originally, Rabbi Isai? He took a shreifa pot, filled it up with water, right? He took a non-badat pot, filled it up with water, shreif water mamish, took that water, and then spilled it onto kosher kalim. Rabbi Isai. And what happened? It went from the knife, and then it hit the fork, and then it hit the next fork. Ooh, Rabbi Isai, what do I need the water to do in this case? Do I need it to do something aggressive? Or all I needed to do is just be mavliya inside? Is this water non-kosher, Rabbi Isai? Water cooked in a treifa pot. Is this water non-kosher? Non-kosher. Nevela soup, nevela soup. If you eat it, oink, oink. Now you take that water and you pour it onto a knife. And then from the knife, it hits the fork. Rabbi Isai, as long as it's a continuous flow, according to the Chavis Das, do I need it to do, say the emes, Gil Mayor, do I need it to do two things or one thing? All that has to do is just go straight in. It's already treif. The liquid there is treif. I don't need it to do two things. I don't need it to take out and then put in and whatever. So Rabbi Isai says the answer of the Chavis Das is not emes. It's not emes. Yeah. So then now we can go back to the drawing board. So he says finally, what's the answer to the kasha? So the Masham said, I'm going to tell you the answer to the kasha. He said it's a mixture of the Prima Godim. It's a mixture of the Prima Godim. And maybe to get out of the Prima Godim side, he says that's for sure. If the water was on the fire, and it's on a boiling fire and it's coming out, so then it's going to be strong enough and that's going to be usher. It still has the strength of the walls. And if it comes out and it's connected, it will yes usher, even if it goes from one kli to another kli, as long as it's a straight le'nifsak hakaduach. He says, I over there was talking about where it wasn't on the fire. He says, if it's on the fire, it's for sure a problem. If it's not on the fire, it depends. He said, if it's not on the fire and it's rosachas, it's mamish boiling, so then it'll be a problem. He says, Masha'en king, what the Shach is talking about is when it's not so boiling. It's not so boiling. And that's what he wants to say. He says, by the case of the cat, by the Bajana cat, he says, it definitely wasn't so boiling. That they agreed that when they put on the milk, it already wasn't so boiling. It was just Yatzaledis bite. And in the morning, it was warm. And that shows us that it was probably just hot. It wasn't boiling. So he says, in Cain, I can be Mako. Ad Kan is the Das Torah of the Bishana. So let's go back now, halacha l'maisa to our faucets. What do I have over here? I have, Nur by Bolzim, what do I have over here when I have my boiler? Safe, I have a fire though, right? Even if you're going to tell me the water is not so hot, which I don't know if you can say that. The boilers, they get very, very hot. The boilers are very hot. But my boiler system, Rabbi Levin, has a fire. No? So all the terutzim you heard today, what is the din of a boiler? The din of a boiler is a kli rishayim, and the pipes that come out of her and go all the way to your faucet is still a kli rishon, and the water coming out is called an irui kli rishon. Before I continue, is that crystal clear, Rabbi Isai? Is it crystal clear or not? Rabbi Isai, I want to tell you how wonderful the Sefer Shmir Shabbos Hilchos is. Do we have one over here? I wanted to show you. I just gave you a whole shir. Is there anybody here that did not have pleasure from what we just spoke about? Did you enjoy it or not, Rabbi Greenhouse? It was pure pleasure. Oh, I'm not going to be able to find it in this one. Let's see. I know the other one. Usually, very good. Thank you. Right. Rabbi Isai, I had planned on telling you this 2 days ago. We got sidetracked. Thank you, Rabbi Sher. We got sidetracked because of your fishy comment, right? I said, this is what I planned on telling you 2 days ago. Today, I was looking up something, and I was planning on telling you the Bajana cat. I was going to ask you if you want to hear about the Bajana cat. I knew you would say yes. Okay. And I was going to tell you about the Marsham and the Chavis Das and the Prima Godim. And it's a whole shir. You admit that this is something right to give a shir about, whether you're learning Shabbos or whether you're learning. Does everybody agree? Right? Let me tell you a big story about the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos. Let me tell you, the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos, it's a wonderful sefer. Let me tell you, everything is in there. Everything is in the sefer. 80% is for sure in there. Whatever you're going to say, it's in there, right? The other 10%, you're going to say if I cared from him. And the other 10%, that last 10%, You're going to say it may be a different nusach. And there's another 10% that he was nifter a few years ago. So Mela, there's new shilas that come up. That equals up about 110%. You figure it out. But it's all in here. Now watch this. What did I just tell you? A whole share. Now listen to the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos. Listen to this. What came out? The Maisa boiler is what? A Kli Rishon. All the pipes continuing are what? Kli Rishon. The water coming out of your faucet is near Kli Rishon. And right now, Rabbi Bozeman is saying, so their cutlery, their milchik and flakeshik cutlery, they're washed together. Aser, we'll take care of him in a moment. But that's what he's saying based on the fact that what? Iroi Kli Rishon, your faucet, your sink, your spout is considered an Iroi Kli Rishon. Rabbi Zai, listen to the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos. What took me 37 minutes to say, watch this. Yeah, Shmir Shabbos says, all of the water that comes out of these miskanim, he's talking about these boiler systems and whatever. He says, you have to worry that the water coming out is a Kli Rishon. Even if they go through these very long pipes. He says, as long as they got saledis, it's considered an Irui Kli Rishon. Okay, that's not a kunz. You have to write the halacha. Look at the bottom here. Siv Kotin Kuf Mem. He says, Kain is mashma. I just want to show you this. I'm going to do now a chazara of everything we spoke about. Just understand, he was a very big man, the Shmir Shabbos Hilchos. There's no reason why. There's a reason why Shmir Zalman spent so much time with him. There's a reason why he decided to take the sefer and to go and spend 7 years. People ask me, what sefer should they learn when they want to know Hilchos Shabbos? What sefer? Shmir Shabbos. What are you talking? Right? Shmir Shabbos. That was the sefer that we know that Shlomo Zalman looked at. But watch, let's do a chazara. Should we do a chazara of the shir? I'm going to make your life easy. Today you don't have to chazar. I'm going to chazar the shir for you right here at the side. Shmir Shabbos Hilchos is like this. Kach mashma, Rashi Shabbos Mem Amid Beis Dibra Maskal Klisheni. What was Rashi Shabbos Mem Amid Beis? That was Embate, that was Rabbi HaKadosh, that was the Trumas Adeshin when Rabbeinu HaKadosh was inside the bathtub, dart in, and he asked for the oil and he said that thing on the side over there, that's the Trumas Adeshin. Okay, let's go weiter. Ayin Sham, in the Rosh Yosef, Ayin Sham. Nira, the Hainu called Da'azman, Sha'esh HaChashmal Delukim. That's only if the fire is going on the Aish. He's answering up the kasha now. That's only if there's a fire going inside the boiler, that the boiler system has a fire. He says, like the case of the Chametz Tveria, that what? Chametz Tveria was a fire, that's considered the Aish. The Gemara has a Shai, Aish Gehenim, Aish of something else. And then the bathtub on the side is considered attached to a Kli Rishon, which is on the fire. Okay, Mamashar, what we spoke about from the Bima Gadim. He says, Hatzinoiris Mekablim from the Kli Rishon, that are mechuber to the boiler, which is mechuber to the Aish. Mali Sir Gadol, Mali Sir, Im Tzinoiris Arukim. Who cares if it's a tzir gadol? Who cares if it's attached by pipes? He's coming to answer my kash. I told you that when you have that little stream, l'chayra, it's not going to be as hot. Okay, no, Mali, he doesn't agree. Then he says, yes, okay, that we're going to skip because that's a chazanish. Then he says, Harei matzinu kiluach mekedero sachas. When I find that a boiling hot stream goes from a pot, a bubbling pot, to a kederet tzanenes, where's that? Simin Sadi Beisiv Zayin in the Ramah, as long as it's not Nifzaka Kiluach, Umayri, and over there it's talking about that it's Roisachas and he ate Sil Ha'esh, and it's on the fire. He's saying, I disagree with the Prima Godim not agreeing with his own answer because it said over there Roisachas and it's on the fire, and therefore that is a valid answer, and that it's considered fire boiling because it's on the fire. Kim Vursham. So he says, Ella. But ayin sham in the Prima Godim, which Prima Godim? No. And then ayin in this Prima Godim, he sent you to this Prima Godim, and then in the one in Sivkot in Yirches in Sariyeh, and go and look at that Prima Godim, where the avoidance of the Prima Godim were goring him not to understand this answer. Ayin sham in the Darkei Tshuva in Sivkot in Samachtes. I'll tell you the secret over there. He brings down the Chavis Das and the Marsham in Chelik Ches, the cat, and the Bajana cat, nished in the hat. He ate him that some old Iroy Mikli Rishon Agoy Agabe Eish Oyser Kula. Omnam Ayin Sham, the Afa Pikain, Haim Soiver my Isser Mishum Shemavliya Veloy Mishum Mevashel. But can you imagine a normal person understanding the Shmir Shabbos without having heard this whole entire shir? It says, but over there, maybe it's easier to do Mavliya, and we're talking about Mevashel. That's the Chavis Das. And he says that could be the answer to the Chazanish. Okay, he goes on. The Heirli Hagoin Rishleim Zaman Orbach. That this is Mavur in the Prima Godim. Okay, this is already Taka beyond this, he gets involved in the Chazon Ish over here, and he goes on, and he goes on, and I. So now you know what to do. Clara by side. How about fella? No, you see that? Sometimes you see ayin, and it looks like all these scary words, and Yeridea and Sadihei, and this. What would happen? You would see that the Shmir Shabbos say, "What's scary? Let's just skip it. Whatever he says on top, aye, sir. I agree with him. Good. Now, do you have koyach to answer the Shaila Tachlis? Now comes the fun. That was the hard part, even I'll admit. Okay? And remember I told you it wasn't hard? It was a little bit hard, but now you understand it. We made it simple. Very good. But now Rabbi Bolson is sitting there, he's telling them your kalim are usser, right? But Rabbi say, let me tell you 5 reasons why we could be make on these kalim. When you put them all together, we'll be make. And that's how it goes in your day with sirufim and sirufim and sirufim. Number 1, we go in order. Let's go in order. Number 1 is tachlis. I told you the water is boiling hot in Yatzaledis, but it's all shaila what Yatzaledis is. In this case, I asked her, was the hot water hot? She said, yeah, the hot water was hot. I said, was it boiling hot? She said, my hands were in it. I told her it's not a raya. She said, I told her, was she wearing gloves? Boom, she was wearing gloves. But she said, it was hot. It was definitely hot. Do we know that this is Yatzaledis by? No, Erwin. Do we know if it's Yatzaledis by? We don't know for sure it's Yatzaledis by. Is it maybe Yatzaledis by for sure? Okay, but that's one side. Maybe it's not Yatzaledis by. Okay, but I'm not even being mitzaref the tzad anymore that our boiler is not a klirishin, because it's for sure a klirishin. That we saw today. But I don't know, number 1, maybe the water is not Yatzaledis by. Number 2 is that even if the water is going to be Yatzaledis by, so then, Rav Moshe comes along, Rabbi Khan, and he was Mekavin tour of Moshe in Chelik Dalid in Siman Yud Gimel. And Rav Moshe says over there, well, 1 minute, when you open up the water, the hot water, you don't just open up the hot water, the cold water comes in too. Nobody's opening just the hot, he's going to boil his hands over. So he has the cold water going in there too. Okay, so Bezai, did you start out and you put cold water in there? You put it maybe halfway, you open up both sides or whatever you do, but you have hot water and cold water. Says Rav Moshe, nearly that if you have cold water going in, what was the reason why we say that an Irui what's the reason why we say that that water in a klirishin is considered to cook? Because the actual walls are giving it strength and not cooling down the water. Says Rav Moshe, but if you put in cold water, the cold water is cooling down the hot water. So you think it's like a chiddush of Rav Moshe. It's a chiddush, right? Maybe only walls cool things down, not cold water. Rav Moshe says, nearly kal chaymer. I think it's a kal chaymer. If a wall can cool down hot water, so then kal chaymer, cold water can cool down hot water. We see that cold water cools down hot water even in the klirishin. So Bezai says Rav Moshe right away, if you put cold water in there, nearly you're cooling it down and you're taking it away from the status of the klirishin. So that's sirif number 2. Stam over here, it started out with up as cold water. Number 2, just one moment. Let's first see the teretz. Number 3 is Rabbi Isai, is the Ramah over here has an incredible chiddush. And that's really what the Shach was coming to discuss over here, actually. The Ramah is a chiddush. He says, if you have boiling hot par of water, which all of our sinks are obviously boiling hot par of water, and that water is going on, does this case sound familiar? If you have boiling hot par of water, and that boiling hot par of water is going onto kalim that have fleishiks and milchik shmutz, does it sound familiar, our case over here? That's exactly our case. Boiling hot water coming out with the Yatzaledis onto milchik kalim and fleishik kalim. So the Ramah says over here, it's kosher. It's kosher. He says, why is it kosher? So he says, Ka'ain somewhat of the svara that we said before. He said, because over here, you have to heat up the milchiks, you have to heat up the fleishiks, and then you have to take it out once you heat it up, and then get it into a kli. And he says a kli is very hard. And to get something into a kli is not so easy to do. That's how the Shach explains over here, the Ramah. So he says, the Ramah says, therefore it's kosher. Now, if that's true, why did I give a whole entire shir? Because the Shach is arguing on the Ramah. Shach says, no way, we don't pass it like that. What do you mean? You have boiling hot water coming down. It's mavashal kedei klipa, and that's it. It's mavashal. If it's mavashal kedei klipa by side, that means it has the ability to do 2 things. When Ira is coming down and being mavashal kedei klipa, it can do 2 things. So it can heat up the cheese, it can heat up the meat, it can stick them together. So now you just cook together the cheese, the meat, and everything that's touching, and everything is like Yehudim. But the Shach says, everyone's with me? But the Shach says, he says, the Ramah's wrong. But if you're dealing with just the kalim, without the milk and the meat, just the kalim without the milk and the meat, no. So that already, I hear what he's saying. Because to heat up a blia in a kli, and then to take out that blia in the kli and put it into a kli, which is hard, that's very difficult. I don't agree with Ramah when he's talking about actual meat and cheese and things like that. That I don't agree with him. I think that's not as hard as he said. But Mashenke, when you're dealing with taking it out of the kli and then getting it from the kli into the next kli, that's hard. Now, by side, when my water comes down from the sink, it hits this spot. If this had milk on that spot and fleischiks on that spot. I don't know. If it touched this and then touched that immediately. No one can know these things. So maybe it washed it off, and maybe it only touched at the point of where the two kalim were touching. It's true. We for sure have two kalim touching. That we know. But do you know for sure that the water touched the cheese, which was touching the part of the meat and all that? So now let's go in order. We have over here, we don't know if it's yatzaletis. We have over here, Moshe Feinstein tells me if there's cold water, it's anyways a cliche. We have over here, the Ramaz Mekel Legamri. We have over here that the Shach says, I'm not going to be machmir if, at least if it's a hes, I'm not going to be machmir if, when you have over here the kalim, I'm not going to be machmir if you have over here the kalim, and the only thing that was nifla was keli to keli. Therefore, I'm not going to be machmir. And then the last thing that you've all been waiting for is the soap. When you ask them, no, was soap used? And they say, yes, soap was used. So then soap also has the ability to be poigim. And soap has the ability to also cause all types of havoc. It makes the boiling hot water that got mixed with this soap, makes it into a pogim dika boiling hot water. And therefore, what happened over here? You're a mavliya into a cheese taste, some ich soapy taste. And now that ich soapy taste got connected to the fleishik, and that is pogim. How do I know to say such a thing? How do I know that pogim is from soap? So that's really the next line over here in the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch in Sivan Sadi Hey, the Shulchan Aruch says, yearly, I think, how many times does the Shulchan Aruch in the 1,705 Simanim of Shulchan Aruch say, I take the liberty to say I think? Very seldom. For those that don't know, nicht alle Mol tut das. Nicht alle Mol tut das. Aber sagt was ist mein Chiddush? Yearly, Chiddush from the Heilige Beis Yosef, yearly, Shim Nosnu Efer B'mayim. In those days, what was Efer? Efer, the Gemara talks already about the Mishnah. Efer was their, like Efer spelled it. Efer was their soap. They used to take ashes, and ashes has lye in it, I think, right? And they used to take it, the lye, they put it inside the water, and it made some type of a soap. It's yearly, Im Nosnu Efer B'mayim. If you take Efer and you put it inside hot water by Yoira, and you put it in there, before I put inside, in those days they used to cook up water and then they would put inside the kalim. So he went and he cooked up water and he put in there fleischiks and milk kalim. That caused all types of trouble, right? But says the Shulchan Aruch, but if you put inside that water soap, it doesn't say soap. He says if you put inside that water Efer, so it's going to make the water all pogim, all ich, gefährlich. So he says now the fleishik kalim and the milk kalim, when they touch and they, so what? They're touching, but what's happening over here? The boiling hot Efer water touches the fleishiks, makes the fleishik an evil taste. That touches the milk, which in itself is an evil taste, and shalom al Yisrael, and there's no problem. Yearly, everything would be kosher. Yearly, that this schmutz and this milk and this meat, mutter. This Efer, you did what's called nice and tam lefgam, and therefore everything in the pot is mutter. No, so say everything is good, right? Everything is good, and therefore b'diavad these kalim are kosher, and they don't need to kasher them. But Rabbi, I can end with one shaila, and I will admit everything we talked today had what to do with Hilchos Shabbos. But what I'm about to say now does not. So, which Chavos Das? The Chavos Das, and that would help us here. Chavos Das wouldn't help us over here, would it? Chavos Das would help us over here. They're not stuck in such a pella that I don't know. It's such an absolute pella. Yeah, I don't know. Stuck in such a pella that I don't think it's a sefer. It's a Baisai. Yeah, Chavos Das, right? You can add it on to the sefer when you're writing a Truvah sefer. Right? It's a Baisai. It's 53 minutes. I have 6 minutes. And what I'm about to say has nothing to do with Hilchos Shabbos, and even I'll admit it. And it's just my yetzer to tell you some inyanim of kashrus. No, so but I could go weiter in Hilchos Shabbos. So what should I do? Should I continue and tell you one last thing? But only if everyone's with me. Rabbi Tersha, you with me? Right? You're against me? Rabbi Drazen, you with me or against me? Okay. Don't worry, I'm saying something from Tells Rosh Hashanah. Al Kapanim. Yes or no? Erwin, we go weiter? Jaime? Okay. It's a side. This has nothing to do with kashrus and with the Shabbos. But this is such a pella. Such a pella. A side. Yeroyali, the big chiddush of Maran Beit Yosef. Right? You ready for this? What's the big chiddush of Maran Beit Yosef? That he doesn't bring a makor and that he brings in Shulchan Aruch. He says, if you put soap inside, he doesn't say soap, but he says afer. If you put ashes inside water, so then you should know that water is ich. And if you had milk kalim inside there and fleishik kalim inside there, the water is all pogim, and there a bezai, your mamish gonna have the blias that, let's say you had the case he's talking about, let's say you have a milk kapat, and you have fleishik and knives and forks and whatever that are in there. So what are you worried about that the fleishik bits that are there are gonna go into the wall? He says, don't worry about it. You know what's gonna go into the wall? The only thing that's gonna go into the wall is the ich. Nothing's gonna go into the wall, and therefore it's kosher, everything is kosher. Okay? Is that a chiddush? If the Beis Yosef wouldn't have said it, Rabbi Gindi, would you have said it if the Beis Yosef wouldn't have said it? Why not? Why not? Is there anybody here who wouldn't say that if the Beis Yosef didn't say it? Comes again the Shach and the Taz and the Goyin, and they throw at the Beis Yosef, they throw Chumash at the Beis Yosef. They say, wow, Maran, that's such a gewaltige teretz. Someone should have told that to Klal Yisrael when they were in the Midbar, and they had this terrible problem of the clay Midian. Somebody should have told them. Everybody's trying to figure out, how do we kasher a ben yoimai? You have a ben yoimai. How are you going to kasher a ben yoimai? There's no way to kasher a ben yoimai. Why is there no way to kasher a ben yoimai? Something became treif. So what are you going to do? You're going to go and cook it up, and the water is going to bubble out, and whatever you cut. What'd you gain? The pot is treif. What happens to the blias? The blias go into the water. What happens when the blias go into the water? Now you have nevela soup. Oink, oink. Now what? The nevela soup goes right back where? Right back into the wall. So you can't kasher a ben yoimai. And that's why in Midian, what did they have to do? Break the kalim, because you can't kasher a ben yoimai. You can't kasher a ben yoimai. Rabbi say, frick the shach, frick the taz, frick the goyim. We have an eitzah. They should have just taken afer, take the afer, put it inside the water, him the water. Now what happens? The blias of the vela come out, they come into the water, they get all ich. Now those blias go back inside. Gewaldik, they're pagim blias, no problem. And you kasha the pot. Does everybody understand the kasha? So the shach, the taz, and the goyin say the Beis Yosef, lo yirali. Now you know at least what the chiddush of the Beis Yosef is. For Rabbi say, he's right. L'chayr the Beis Yosef. No, l'chayr is right. He's right. No. And Rabbi says it's so important because we need to know the answer to this kasha. Because if the shach and the taz and the gra tell me don't do it, so now I just lost my tziruf of soap. Maybe it's a tziruf, right? But it's no longer the ikar psak halacha now. But doesn't matter. It's the same idea. This is also true. Right? Is a way side. Listen to a davar nifla, the Chazain Ish, and the Yad Yehuda. They say the same thing. Listen to a davar nifla. They say no. Davar nifla. What they say over here? They say the taka an unbelievable chiddush in this Beis Yosef. Unbelievable. You know what the chiddush is? Rabbi said, when you have a pot, so now, wait, Rabbi said, I'll add the kasha. Can I add one more question? The Beis Yosef has such an unbelievable answer over here, right? So a fabulous answer over here, okay? And the Goyin and the Shach and the Taz say he's wrong. Why? Because in Midian, you see not like that. So what do you think they're arguing on? You think they're arguing that, no, really, afer doesn't make it so awful tasting. So then find something awful tasting. Who can argue on this? So afer doesn't make it so awful tasting, right? So put in, put in there some mun that went off. I don't know, right? Sack, put inside a sack, Rabbi Spira, put inside a sack, a slonimer sack. You couldn't find a sack, thank you, Rabbi Sher, right? You couldn't find a sack to put inside there? No? So Rabbi said, listen to Davar Shimu Uschi Nafshechem. You're about to have three as a mason, Rabbi said. Listen what the Chazain Ish says. The Chazain Ish and the Yad Yehuda, I think the Chazain Ish was in the 28th Sivan. I didn't get a chance to look this up beforehand, I'm sorry. The Chazain Ish says a Davar Nifla. The Chazain Ish says, no, you're making a mistake. The Goyin is right, the Shach is right, the Taz is right, they're right. Why? They say water and, it's a Davar Nifla, Rabbi said, Davar Nifla. The whole entire world was created for what I'm about to tell you, Rabbi said. The davar nifla, afer and water does not get mixed. Afer and water doesn't mix together, right? the water stays separate, the afer stays separate, and they're in there. It's true. If you drink the water with the afer, it's quite kaferlich. Okay. But now, when the water is boiling inside the pot, what goes into the wall? The water goes into the wall. The afer remains separate. It doesn't become dissolved, dissolved inside the water. It becomes separate. Memelo says the Chazanish, listen to the Chazanish. He says, now what happens? The water goes into the wall. No, the treifa water now comes out. And now you got a problem because the water that goes back in has treifa blias. And that's why afer is not a matzif. No, the Beis Yosef holds not like that. You can imagine what the machlekes is. Okay, but we asked the kasha. No, fine. So then find something else. Go and take bleach. Go and take soap. And don't tell me they didn't have. Go figure it out. No, go take from the Bereshit. Figure out something and make some type of a bleach. They would never do that. That for sure they're not going to do. Because if they take bleach and put it inside the water and put it inside their pot, so you know what's going to happen? The taste of bleach is going to be in the walls of their pot. They didn't have the fancy pots that you have. That's why they dafka would do something like afer. Why did they use soap of afer? Why did they use bleach? Isn't stronger thing? The answer is, what's the kasha b'chal? They dafka used afer because afer, taka, doesn't get into the water and therefore it doesn't get inside the walls. And therefore, when you go and cook up your cholent inside your pot, it's not going to taste like afer. It doesn't actually go in. If you're going to take bleach, and they had some porous, evil pots that they had in those days, but so you go take the bleach, 100% says the Chazanish. It would work, and you'd be able to kasher for minyan, you know, shaila, but you're just not going to be able to eat because inside your walls are going to be the water that got mixed together with the bleach. It's going to go inside your walls. You're going to have in the cholent bleach. But us, is by us, our pots don't have that problem. Whatever level of blias go into our pot is not that much. We have a muna, there's a little bit, right? But the blias taka go in and the water gets mixed with the soap and it gets mixed with the bleach. It goes into the soap, it goes into the bleach. It gets all mixed together. And the boiling hot water, because here it's not siftable. It's not like afer and water, which remains as two separate things that are two separate entities. Here, the water gets heated up, the soap together, and the water and the soap together go into the wall. So you're asking me, so then how come I don't taste it in my food? The teretz is because our metal is tempered, and our metal has an attitude problem, and our metal doesn't have the porousness. And therefore, when the blias go in, they don't go in as strong, and therefore there's no problem. But akopanim, do they go in from the food that the water is definitely balua with pogim? Of course, it goes in pogim. And this is what kashrus agencies are samichan, obviously. When they come in, they have to kasher the whole place. And if you're going to say, I'm going to be machmer, most of the products in America you can't eat, because that's how they go and they make kosher runs and kosher lines, et cetera, is that they'll come in, they'll put in bleach, they'll put in the water bleach, et cetera, and then they'll be poikim the whole entire water, and it got mixed in. It's not that they're saying, I don't agree with the Shach and the Taz and the Vilna Goyen. We agree with the Shach and the Taz and the Vilna Goyen, but they were talking about afer. Then why in Midjan? Didn't they just take bleach and soap? It's not because they didn't have it, it's because they weren't crazy. They're not going to go and take bleach and soap and put it inside the water and put it into the pot, then you'd have to smash the pot. Nifla ad leme'oy. Is la Yehudim Rabbi side? Everybody b'simcha rabba? Have you ever been happy in your life, in your whole life? Right? Das is an iced coffee, Rabbi side. Das is an iced coffee. Das is an iced coffee. Why are the Fiskus girls not dancing? Look at the smile of Rabbi Nevinsel's face. Ay, what a simcha. Goyim will never know the pleasure that we have from a pot of water that has soap inside of it. They will never know, Rabbi Isai. They will never know what we experience today. They will never know, Rabbi Isai. They will never know the reason why the world was created, and they will never experience the pleasure of the Vilna Goyen and the Chazanish and the Yad Yehuda and the Taz and the Choles Das and the Prima Godim and the Shach and the Ramah, who is the Torah's Chates, and all of our Chaverim that were with us today learning this Sugya. Are you all b'simcha rabba? Should I say something on the parasha? Okay, let me just say one thing on the parasha. If I say, Havla fella, just to not scare off my American folk, just that the American folk shouldn't get scared off. It is in Eretz Yisrael. It's Parshas Paloischa. It is not usher for you to listen to a Chumash Muz on Parshas Paloischa. It's not Isser. It is not a Bal Tosef. I'm going to welcome all of my listeners from Torah Anytime, I guess next week, because I don't know where they're going to put this in Parshas Baloischa. And I will remember the American and UK, UK, Tzibor, and Madagascar, yes. And I will remember them all. And B'ezras Hashem, tomorrow, maybe the Chizuk will be on Parshas Nazar. And it is not usher for anyone in Eretz Yisrael at 5 o'clock tomorrow when we have the Chizuk to listen to Chumash. I'll make sure to say stories so that way, and I'll even maybe mention how you can be Meramez to the other parsha. Don't worry, it's not an Isser, it's like Mamish. Okay. It's like a pun, but Rabbi say over here, there's 2 hours I have today in Parshas Baloischa. Both of them are big Yisaitis, Rabbi say. It's one hour that I had. It says in Perek Yud in Pasuk Chavtes. Perek Yud in Pasuk Chavtes, Rabbi say, it talks about how Moshe Rabbeinu tells his shver. He says, Yisrael, we're going in 3 days. We're going to Eretz Yisrael. They had been by Har Sinai. Har Sinai is just ended. It's mamish. You see how the parsha is so shtim with the time that we're in. It's half of a fella. They had just been by Har Sinai. They had received the Torah, and now it was time to leave Har Sinai. It was after a while. It was time to leave Har Sinai. He tells Yisrael, because this is before any of the Averis, it's before the Meraglim, it's before all the Averis. He says, Yisrael, we're going to Eretz Yisrael. We're going to be there in 3 days. Okay, interesting parsha over there. Yisrael doesn't come with it. It's an interesting parsha. Akapanim. Here comes Moshe Rabbeinu. We were just at Har Sinai. We're going into Eretz Yisrael, and the ruach and the fire is probably nifla. All of a sudden, Vayisu me'ar Hashem. It says that they were tinoik aboideach mi beis sefer. Klal Yisrael left Har Sinai like a tinoik. They ran away from Har Sinai, and then and they started complaining, and the Messiah and then starts Fragnish. Then starts Mamish with Meraglim. It does. 39 years later, they go into Eretz Yisrael. Do you realize the matzav we're in, Rabbi Isai? It's a matzav of 3 days we're going into Eretz Yisrael on the high of Har Sinai, and 3 days later starts the whole long downward spiral all the way down to 39 years in the midbar. What happened over here? What happened over here? And more so to be meisiv to the Shaila, just to make it all the shmer. Is a Beisai. When they left Mitzrayim, when Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim, so what does it say in the Zohar? When they left Mitzrayim, they left the actual Yam Suf. It says in the Zohar, they wanted to stay by Kriyas Yam Suf forever. They never wanted to leave. What they saw over there by the Yam, could you imagine a person, what they saw by the Yam? I remember I was once after a chuppah, and somebody said, the Kallus, when she walked out, she said to her mother, that you heard her saying under the chuppah, she said, I wish this would last forever. She wishes that the chuppah would last forever. Then Klal Yisrael were by the Kriyas Yam Suf. They wanted to last forever. They wanted to never, ever leave Yam Suf. They saw Giluyim that Yeshaya Navi Nishkezayin. They saw Giluyim that Yecheskel Navi Nishkezayin. They wanted to stay forever. No, Rabbi Say, Har Sinai was more or less than Yisias Mitzrayim. Rabbi Say, it was 1 billion times more what they saw by Har Sinai. 1 billion times more. Rabbi Say, by Har Sinai, you go look in the Orach Chaim when he talks in Parshas Yisrael. It's half of the fellow. He talks about how the fire came down from Shemayim. He talks about when the fire came down, the Mechita from Shemayim, it split the Har in half. Water was coming out of the fire, out of the mountain. The actual tip of Har Sinai flew up to Shemayim. The Shechina came down. There were groups and groups and groups of malachim. There were 22,000 malachim that had crowns for all the Levium. On the other side, there were 600,000 malachim that had crowns, golden fire crowns for Klal Yisrael. There was 1.2 million malachim, Revalis Shel malachim on that side. And then there was on the other side an amount of malachim, She'ein v'misper, all coming down from Matan Torah. And there was sounds and noises that reached from one side of the world to the other side of the world. There were rocks. Until today, Mikoyach the fire and Mikoyach the awesomeness and the Cheret and the Pachad have implanted on the Megalamuk. It says pictures of the sneh when you would go there to Har Sinai. Har Sinai was the Rebbeinu Shalom talked from Shemayim. He came down, they saw all the Kisei HaKovod, they saw the Shiva Rekiyim, the Rebbeinu Shalom came down. They had Kedekach, it was Baruch Nishmasam from the whole awesome event. It doesn't say it was Baruch Nishmasam by the event of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Yet, over here, when it comes to Kriyas Yam Suf, they don't want to leave, the Zohar says. We want to stay forever. When it comes to Har Sinai, they got to get out of here. They want to run away. So what happened over here? What's the difference? If anything, Rabbi say, by Kriyas Yamsuf, it wasn't as big. So there they should run away. They're running away from Paroi. They know what's on the other side, no? So they should run and get out of there. By Har Sinai? By Har Sinai, they should say, I don't want to leave here. I want to stay here forever. The Munkach, he said, I can't go to the Kaisel. He made a neder that he's never going to go to the Kaisel. He made a neder. He said, why? He says, because if I go to the Kaisel, I will never leave. I'll never leave. And my Chassidim, they need me. How can I leave? The Shechina Leizazah Meimakam Zemi Oilam. His son, he said, I'm not as big as my father, the Darkei Tshuva. I'm not as big as my father. Me, he only went the first time. He went, and he went crawling and crying to the Kaisel, and he stayed there for 24 hours, crying and crying, and he didn't want to leave, but he had to leave. But he had to make a neder never to leave. Rabbi said, could you imagine being by Har Sinai? Who would want to leave? But Klal Yisrael ran away and started a downward spiral, and it was supposed to be 3 days, and they were supposed to be going into Eretz Yisrael. What happened over here? What happened over here? Rabbi said, I heard a word. Someone said over from Rabbi Isaac Osband, the Shiva tells, is the Shiva? Sorry? Cleveland. Yeah, there's such a davar nifla what he said over. It's a davar nifla. Adam Gadol Kamars. It's a davar nifla what he said. It's a davar nifla. He said over that the Yisrael Pashit by Har Sinai. By Har Sinai, I had this kasha talk. It bothered me. I had different mahalchim, but then I heard this mahalch and I was mevatel my das. He said, by Har Sinai is very different than Kriyas Yamsuf. Kriyas Yamsuf was, I'll explain in my language, but Kriyas Yamsuf was hype. Kriyas Yamsuf was a hype. Hype was, hoa, the Boine Shaloylam, Kriyas Yamsuf, hoa, Yiddishkeit, hoa, Geshmak, Torah, God, Boine Shaloylam. Hype. Right? Hype you always want. People spend millions for hype, Rabbi say. They'll spend for the Yiddishkeit, for the hype of Yiddishkeit, they'll do anything for the hype of Yiddishkeit. Har Sinai came with a Christ. Har Sinai came with Torah and mitzvahs. Har Sinai was a hype. Oh, it was a hype. It was a hype much bigger than Kriyas Yamsuf. But it was a hype that came with a chrayas, and it was a hype that said, now Torah and mitzvahs. Now you have to live life without the hype. Torah and mitzvahs, and a life of an Erev Yid, Torah, Tefillah, Chesed, and the day-to-day avodah of being a Yid, and having the excitement of being a Yid, and having the excitement in the avodah when there's no hype, when there's no fires coming from Shemayim. So Kriyas Yamsuf, everybody wants to be a part of that hype. And they want to stay there forever. They want that. Every one of us wants that. That's the never-ending kumsitz that we all want. And we all want it to last forever. And that feeling that we had, we want it to last forever. And we'd be willing to spend thousands of dollars to go to this tzaddik's kever, with a matziv, and that tzaddik's kever, with a matziv, and that achnot to sefer Torah, with a matziv. And I'm not being mizalzel. The hype, there's a hype. You see, Kriyas Yamsuf gemeint a hype. But a hype that comes with a chayas, with Torah mitzvahs, and living like an Erev Yid the next day, and without the hype, everybody can learn the whole night on Shabbos night. Hype. Right? And as I dav we need hype in life. We need hype to inspire us. We need hype to give us an inspiration. Everybody can live life with that type of a hype, Rabbi say. Would love to live life, with that type of a hype, Rabbi say. But that's for inspiration. Shabbos night, you can learn the whole night. That's no shayla. But the day after day, and to learn the kriyas, and to come in with the geschmack, and to come in when you don't have that hype and that excitement and that incredible awesomeness, right? Come to the Beis Medrash for the first time over here. We're saying to come back to the Beis Medrash. Oh, it's definitely a hype. Coming back to the Beis Medrash, it's a hype. And that's one thing. Hype has to give us one thing, Rabbi say. Hype has to give us inspiration. But you can't live life with hype. And you see today, some people, this is the difficulty. The difficulty is when a person has to live life. Somebody was just going back from living in Koilel, and now he's not in the Koilel life anymore. Now he's in the Chutzlars. He's not living in the Koilel life anymore. I'm not saying that there's not Koilel in the Chutzlars, but he was living in Eretz Yisrael, and that's somewhat of the hergish that I had when I was talking to him. That when he was in Eretz Yisrael, the matzah of learning Torah, that was the inspiration itself. That carried the person, the hype, right? But the living life, the day-to-day being an Erev Yid, Torah and mitzvahs without the hype, that's the kunz, Rabbi say. That's the kunz. That's the real kunz. And that's where you see, when they ran away from Har Hashem, that's because of Ada. That's the derech of the person, is when there's hype, I want to come toward it. But when there's not hype, that's where it is, Rabbi. And you see this talk in the beginning of the parsha. In the beginning of the parsha, Aaron HaKohen had Agmas Nefesh. Why did Aaron HaKohen have Agmas Nefesh? Because he saw in last week's parsha, which is Parshas Nasai, so the guys in America can listen. And that's how we connected both parshas. Okay? And during any time I can put it in both sections now. Okay? In the beginning of the parsha, it says Aaron HaKohen saw what the Nesiim Hamzegahat. What did the Nesiim have in last week's parsha? We'll see him brought a korban. It was a hafladik korban. It was a chatas, which was a nadava. It was an incredible thing. And Aaron HaKohen had a chalisha sadas because he wasn't a part of it. His Shevet, they weren't a part of it. And the only people that were part of it was Shevet Levi. So he had a chalisha sadas. I also want. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him in the beginning of this week's parsha, no. You get to light the menorah, right? I think the lashon over there is, he wasn't with them. The chalash daita lashon is, but he was told that gadol shalcha is gadol mishalahem. Your lot of lighting the menorah is bigger than theirs. What was he telling them? He was telling him, Nesiim and Avad Klal Yisrael, we need the hype. We need that matzah. We need that inspiration. He said, that's gewaldig. That's gewaldig. But what you're going to do to light the menorah day after day after day, the avoida, with the Aaron HaKohen kind of the constant avoida and the constant avoida Hashem, the Torah and mitzvahs, without the hype and just using the hype as the inspiration. Gadol shalcha mishalahem. That avoida of being a constant of a tamid, of a person that is able to use the hype just for inspiration and then to go weiter and to steig and to steig and to steig when it's not some hype and some matzah. Remember the first day Rabbi said you went on that minyan outside, that porch minyan, that outside minyan. It was so geschmack. It was majestic. It's unbelievable, no? It was hype. It was geschmack, and it's good. And Yiddishkeit does have a time. The Kriyas Yamsef was a Kriyas Yamsef, and it was, right? But then after a while, it wasn't so geschmack anymore. Maybe it became just like a regular minyan, and then maybe it even went under that. It wasn't so geschmack. Then it got hot outside a little bit also. Then this. Because to live a life as an Erlich Yid, Shalcha Gadol Mishalahem, to do the Avodah Yoim without that hype, that's the Avodah, Rabbi said. That's the most precious Avodah by the Rebbeinu Shalom is that when there are these challenges and the difficulties of life, what he has to do is he has to infuse the hype into his avodah. Take that hype, steig with it, but that avodah is much more precious by Kadosh Baruch Hu, because that's an avodah that's done without the actual hype, right? And that's we have to steig from that matziv. We have to steig from that matziv. I know I'm one dot overtime. I just want to tell you one more thing that I thought of today. One more thing. I usually don't do this, but it's not going to be a long word. It's going to be a 2-minute thing. It's just something I thought of today. I think I heard it from Rav Volba Zecher Lefracha. I think Mamish in Parshas Balaiskin. I think it was 24 years ago. That's what I think. I'm not 100% sure. As a bacher, I think. I know as a bacher, and I know I heard it from Rav Volba. I just don't remember if it was 24 years ago, but it was maybe 23 years ago. But Akaponim, Rav Volba said a davar nifla. He said, Aaron HaKohen, why was he taka zeicha to light the menorah? What was he zeicha? He said a psavort, and the pshat is because Aaron HaKohen, he gave light to people. What does it mean he gave light to people? He made shalom bayis. It said that 80,000 boys were named Aaron because he made peace in the house of 80,000 people. 80,000 people. So Volba, I'll never forget, he asked the kasha, how did Aaron HaKohen make peace? What was the nakuda of what was his chachma to be able to, 80,000 people, he made shalom bayis, 80,000 kids were named Aaron. But it's such a davar nifla, which you have to hear in the matzav now in Corona. You have to hear this, Rabbi said. It's a very important insight. He said, davar nifla. He said that there's two issues. I remember this in the middle while I was speaking, and that it's very important to say. He said there's two issues that a person has when he has a problem in life. Okay, listen to this, Rabbi said. I'm giving you gold now, so listen to Rav. There are two problems a person has when he has a problem in life. There's two parts of the problem. There's the problem itself. Medical problem, emotional problem, whatever it is, right? Financial problem. There's the problem itself, okay? And then there's the feeling that I'm the only person in the world that has this problem. I'm feeling alone. There's the problem itself. Person has a medical issue. So there's the medical issue, and there's a whole world out there which is happy, and they don't have that medical issue. Okay, you don't know their issues, but that's how you feel. That's how you feel. It said, what Aaron HaKohen did was Aaron HaKohen took care of the second problem. The second problem is that the person felt alone. And that, he said, and I'll never forget, the Rabbi said, the second problem that you feel alone, he said, that is much more difficult than the problem. The problem itself, that you don't magdil and you don't magnify, that's the problem. And the Baruch Shalom usually gives the person the kelim to deal with the problem, and that's the problem itself. But when a person feels alone, he magnifies it and magnifies it. That's where the magnification comes of the issue. Nobody else has this problem. Everybody else has happiness. Everybody else has health. Everybody else has financial stability, etc. And he magnifies in himself the issue that he has. Aaron HaKohen went over, he talked to them, he became their friend, he empathized with them, sympathized with them, and they felt the love, they felt the connection from Aaron HaKohen, and it took away the second issue. It took away the issue that I'm alone. You're not alone. Now you're left with the issue you could deal with. And that's what he said, right? Aaron Kohen was Zoicha to light the menorah because he gave off light to Klal Yisrael. So Mamelu was Zoicha. I was thinking, just now, now that Corona, it's the Erev has a lot of talk in the ganze Welt that it should come to an end in Ganzen or whatever. There's something very interesting. In Corona, most people in this matzav in the last 9 weeks, in this situation of Corona, most people, I think the Oilam will agree to me, didn't have the second issue because everybody had the problem. Everybody had the problem. So everybody had the problem. For some people, the physical problem. For some people, the emotional problem, the technical problem of being in a small house together, this, that, whatever. The financial problem, when everybody else has the problem, right? So that's it. What do we say? Misery loves company. Doesn't make us. That's what it means. Okay. So Mela, during Corona for the last 9 weeks, you had the etzim problem. And because of that, the problem itself was a problem. I'm not minimizing it, but it didn't have that additional factor because you know what? You're definitely not alone. You're definitely not alone. You know what? Today, there's people that Corona slowly all over the world, whether in some places they're doing it, get involved in whatever you want to think about. But let's say in some places in the world, they're slowly dropping the limitations in this country, in that country. Each country can feed the matzah, but that's how it's going. They're dropping the limitations. So you know what? But you still have people that are behind closed doors. You still have people that have issues, medical issues, and they have high risk issues, et cetera, and now they have that problem. And now they have the problem. And they can feel it. Because now the whole world is starting up again. So not only do I have the problem of Corona, but I'm all alone. I'm all alone. So that has to give a person a certain achrayus. Make sure that if you know somebody, everybody has to know somebody. Everybody has to know somebody, right? So you make sure that if you know somebody, not only to go over, stand outside and give a shalom aleichem, to talk to the person, etc., whoever it is, if it's somebody from the older door, if it's somebody this, also to technically help out the person. It's not so simple that he can actually go out to the grocery store. It's not so simple that he can be doing all types of things. That's where the difficulty starts. That's where the difficulty is. But that was the midah of Aaron HaKohen. That was the midah of Aaron. Okay, good Shabbos, everybody. Shabbos, everybody say.
Good Shabbos, Rabbi. Shkoyach.
Good Shabbos, guys.
Shabbos, Rabbi.
Rabbi.
Shkoyach.
Rabbi Hirschhoff. You look so nice, Rabbi Hirschhoff. Maybe, what is that? You shaved over there? Oh, Rabbi say, don't forget, everybody should put out little pekaloch by their door for Danny's Shalom Zachar. So I'm going to have outside my door in Ramat Shlomo. Danny's going to have outside his door in Harnov. Fishy is going to have inside the car. Rav Nevensel's taking the old city. Monty Bar Park or whatever. Rabbi, you take wherever you're from, Portugal. Rabbi Meisner, you take London. Right? Put outside Tommy Mayonnaise over there. Right? Manny, you take Machal. Rabbi Hirschhoff, you take the West Coast. Actually, don't go out of your house, Rabbi Hirschhoff. Don't go out of your house. Don't go out of your house. Don't go out of your house. Mark Steen, your father, Yonah Rotenberg, come back to Eretz Yisrael. What are you doing over there? It's enough already. It's time to come back.